dependency as well as your JSTL dependency you have to configure actually. And in the case of your controller program, we have to give always what annotation we have to give it.
Controller
annotation. Controller annotation. And whenever you give other controller, it will always return the response in the form of a JSP page actually. So whatever, so what will be the return type of the method you have to define?
Index.
No, return type I'm asking. No, return type I'm asking.
String.
String actually. Okay, you have to define the return type to be string actually. And whatever you're returning, that will be the name of your
JSP file.
JSP file. Okay. And where we have to create your JSP file, it has to be present inside your folder. And inside web-inf folder, you have to create another folder and you have to keep it. So how many Spring Boot knows that we have kept all your JSP page inside that particular location? So for that purpose, what you have to configure in your application.properties file?
Prefix
Okay, prefix as well as your suffix actually. And how my Spring Boot will generate the JSP page? So I have given one formula now. So prefix plus
name
plus suffix actually. Yeah, and if I want to transfer anything from the controller program to the JSP now, we have to use which class we have to use it?
Model map class.
Model map class actually. And with the help of your add attribute method, we are going to add the object into the attribute. And in my JSP pages, how I can able to print it, we have to use what language we have to use it?
Expression language.
And how you will define your expression language, $curly brace, and you have to define that particular thing, you have to define it actually. Okay. And next we have discussed actually, whenever you're going to start any Spring Boot application, by default, first what it will be started?
Spring Boot application.
Spring Boot application, what it will be started? Your main method, it will be started. Main method. But before your main method starts, if I want to do some task now, in that case, you have to implement an interface called as? We have to override which method?
Run method.
Override run method. So you can create any number of command line interface you can able to create, but first it will always invoke which one it will be invoking?
Main
class run method it will be invoking. After that one it will invoke the other things and all it will be invoking. And finally it will be invoke which one?
Main method.
But I don't want to invoke under the run method that is present in the main class first. I want to invoke the different one. Then you have to provide what annotation?
Order.
Order annotation. And the next topic we have discussed this week, profiling concept actually. So in the case of your project development, you will be having a different
Environment,
development environment, testing environment, production environment. So you'll be having a different environment you'll be having, and each environment needed different
configuration.
So I can't able to write all the configuration in a single
Properties file.
So in the case of your profiling, we have to create different profiles and profiles for properties we have to create it. So how you create the properties file? Application hyphen your profile name actually. Application hyphen profile name dot properties. So it's created three profiles created. Application hyphen dev dot properties, application hyphen testing properties, application hyphen properties. And if I want to, so by default my Spring Boot will be accessing which profile it will be accessing?
Application dot properties.
Application dot properties profile. That is your default profile actually. But if I want to access your development profile or testing profile now, what do you have to configure?
application
Profiles.active.
Profiles.active is equal to, here you have to give dev or test or prod like that, you have to give it actually. And in each properties file, we have defined two properties we have defined. What are the two properties we have defined?
Port and message.
So how I can able to access the value from, how I can able to access the information from the properties file to the controller program, we have to use what annotation?
value.
Value annotation. We have to use an annotation called your value annotation. So clear guys about the yesterday's concept?
Yes, sir.
Can anyone share your screen?
Shall I share some?
Yeah, please. Okay, open your Spring Boot 4 project itself. Yesterday project itself, open it, Spring Boot 4 project. And in the Spring Boot 4 project, we are discussing about the profiling concept actually. Okay, and in order to do profiling, what property we have to configure in your application.properties file? What property we have to configure in your application.properties file in order to do your profile? Yeah, Spring.profiles.active. Okay, Spring.profiles.active. So now if I want to do my profiling to your properties file now, then I can go for a thing called Spring.profiles.active actually. But if I want to control the if I want to control the program based upon the profile programmatically, if I want to control now, then we have an annotation called as your profile annotation. Okay, we have an annotation called as your profile annotation. And what is the purpose of this profile annotation now? If I want to control the programs based upon the profiles programmatically, if I want to control now, in that case I can able to go for a concept called as your profile concept. Okay, I can go for a concept called as your profile concept. Okay, so now we created different profiles. We have created test profile and development profile, production profile, like that. We have different profiles we have created. And if I want to use any one of the profile, if I want to use it now in my application.properties file, what I have to define? I have to define an annotation called as
profile.
So in your properties file, we have to define what is it? Property called as what property we have to define? That we have to define it. But now what is my objective now? I want to do the profiling programmatically. I want to do it actually. So how I can able to do that actually? So everyone go to your SRC main resources SRC main Java folder. Expand your SRC main Java. Okay, so now right click your com.pack.spring boot 4 package and create a new class. Create a new class. Right click the com.pack.spring boot 4 and create a new class. Create a new class. So give the class name as app config. Give the class name as app config. App config. Anything you can give. I'm giving as app config. Finish. App config. Finish. So now I created a class called your app config class actually, and I want to work. This particular app config class should be working only when my profile is my production profile. Okay, if there is another profile now, like maybe a development profile or testing profile and all, this program should not be work. Okay, this app config class should not be working. So this app config class, when it should be working, only if my profile is production profile. Okay, only if my profile is production profile actually. So if I want to and control any program based upon the profiling concept. Okay, if I want to control any program based upon the profiling concept, now in that case you have to use what annotation? We have to use it.
Profile.
Profile annotation. And wait. So before that, I want to indicate it is one of a beam program. I want to indicate it. So how I'll be indicating this is one of a beam program? How you'll be indicating this particular program is one of a beam program?
Other
component. Or even instead of using other component, even we can able to use what? Other? In Springler we have studied now, where we have defined the collection of. It's not bean actually. Other. It also starts with C.
Configuration.
Configuration actually. So either you can go for other configuration or I can go for other component in order to represent the beam. Anything I can able to use it. So here I'm going to use my other configuration. So define an annotation called other configuration. Next annotation. I want to invoke this program only at the time of which profile? Production profile. So we are going to use an annotation other profile inside your bracket like double quotes like give prod. Inside your bracket double quotes give it as prod. Double quotes like give it as prod. So this particular program will be invoking only if my profile is what?
Production
profile. Okay, production profile. Now inside that particular class we are going to create one method. We are going to create public void print. Public void print. And inside that just print system.out.println. System.out.println. Production profile. System.out.println. Production profile. Okay, so I have indicated this particular class has to be invoked only if my profile is production. So we have used an annotation called other profile annotation actually. Apart from this, when this method has this has a class and this class contains so many methods it will be containing, but here I created only one method called as print method actually. So when this method has to be invoked actually. So before this method, I am going to define one more annotation called as your @post construct annotation. @post construct annotation. @post construct annotation. Import from your javax.annotation.post construct. Import from your javax.annotation.post construct. So now this program will be invoking if my profile is production profile, and in that particular program, I want to invoke the print method at the time of calling my production profile itself, because we are called at the time of post construct itself. Post construct now at the time of calling your app config class itself, this particular method print method will be called actually. Okay. Now go to your application.properties file. So what is the profile we have configured?
Production
Profile. Okay. Now everyone save it and run the program. Everyone save it and run the program. And go to your console. Everyone save it and run the program and go to your console. So in the second line, we are calling which profile it was calling?
Production.
Prod profile it was calling actually. And since the profile is prod, it was invoking which class it was invoking?
App config
class. And inside this app config class at the time of loading, because we called your post construct. So at the time of loading itself, we are calling your print method. And is it printing as production profile in the console?
Yes, sir.
Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Is it printing production profile in the console?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes or no for others?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now everyone go to your application.properties file and change prod to dev. Go to your application.properties file and change prod to dev. So now we are referring which profile we are referring?
Development profile.
So whenever you refer your development profile, will that particular app config will be executed?
No, sir.
No. So check your console whether it is printing production profile or not.
No, sir.
No, it won't be printing actually. Okay, it won't be printing because, and check in the second line also, it was referring your development profile, it was referring actually. So it should not print what it should not be printing?
Production profile.
Because that particular class or that particular program will be invoked only if my profile is
Production.
So we are controlling the program based upon the profile. We are controlling the program with the help of an annotation called your @.
Profile.
Profile annotation. Okay, with the help of an annotation called your @profile annotation. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
So now, as I already told before, my Spring Boot by default it will be reading the configuration from which file it will be reading.
Application.properties file.
That is present inside your resources folder. Okay, that is present inside your resources folder actually. Okay, normally the application.properties file should be present inside your resources folder only. It should be present, and by default your Spring Boot will reading the configuration from your application.properties file. So now everyone go to your SRC main resources. Everyone go to your SRC main resources. Okay, now right click your SRC main resource. Right click your SRC main resource. New file. Right click your SRC main resources. New file. So give the file name as custom.properties. Give the file name as custom.properties. Custom.properties. Finish. Custom.properties. Finish. Okay. So now we created my own property file called as what property I created? Custom.properties file. And inside this custom.properties file, now I'm going to define some properties I'm going to define. And we have already discussed what my properties file will be containing. Collection of? What my properties file will be containing. Collection of what?
Key and value pair.
A key and value pair, and both the key and value should be in the form of what?
String.
Yeah. So now we are going to define some properties. We are going to define it. So type employee dot employee dot name is equal to so give some name, just give some name. Next line, employee dot age is equal to 25. Employee dot salary is equal to 30,000. Employee dot salary is equal to 30,000. So now what we have defined actually, so we have defined some properties inside my own file called as your custom dot properties. Okay, we'll come back actually. So now everyone go to your C folder, go to your C colon folder. Everyone go to your C colon folder. Not here. Everyone go to the folder C colon. Go to the folder location, ma. Go to the C colon. Inside the create a folder called properties. Create a folder called properties. Create a folder called properties. Properties. Open a notepad. Just open a notepad. Open a notepad. Have everyone opened, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Employee dot email is equal to give some email ram@gmail.com something you give. Employee dot email is equal to. Next is employee dot address is equal to Chennai. Something you can do something. Okay. So here now save this program as custom one dot properties. Save this program as custom one dot properties inside your what folder properties folder inside your properties folder and change the save as type to all files. Change that save as type to the all files. Otherwise, it won't be working. Change the save as type to the all files. File need to be custom.properties file and go and save inside your properties folder. You're searching in Java training folder by work. C colon save it inside your properties folder. C colon save it inside your properties folder as custom.properties. Another time of saving, change that save as type option to be all files. Finished, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now I created two properties file I created. One is we call it a custom.properties that is present inside your resources folder itself. Another one is custom one.properties that is present inside your C colon latest present. And we have already studied Spring Boot by default will read all the configuration from which file?
Application.properties
file actually. Okay, application.properties file actually. But now how my Spring Boot can able to read the information from your custom.properties as well as your custom one dot?
properties.
Okay, that is one thing we are going to discuss. Second thing is that, and as we have already discussed, if I want to access any information from the properties file to my program, now we have to use what annotation?
Value.
Value annotation. So if you see custom.properties, we have three properties. We have custom one.properties, we have two properties is there. So then we have to call this value. How many times we have to call?
2 times.
Only 2 times.
No, sir, 5 times.
5 times we have to call it because custom.properties we have 3 properties. Custom one.property we have 2 properties. So totally we have 5 properties are there. So if I want to access any information from the property file to a program, we're using an annotation called
Value annotation.
Now I have to call this value annotation. How many times I have to call it?
5 times.
5 times.
5 is also a small number only. But consider my properties file contains hundreds and hundreds of properties are there. Now then we have to use my value annotation 100 times I have to call it actually. So instead of doing like this, if I want to map the property file to your Bean program, okay, so we are going to map the resources from the properties file to a separate Bean program. We are going to map it. So for that purpose, we are going to use an annotation called as your configuration properties annotation. We are going to use an annotation called configuration properties annotation. So as I already told before, if I want to access a property from a properties file to a program, now we'll be using an annotation called what annotation? Value annotation. But if I use my value annotation now, for one property, we have to separately define
One annotation.
you have to value you have to define it. So in case my properties file contain 50 properties now, then I have to call my value. How many times I have to call it?
3 times.
3 times I have to call it. Instead of doing like this, what I'm going to do now, I am going to map all the properties information present in the properties file to a separate what program?
Configuration.
No, what program? I'm going to map the
Bean
properties to one program.
Bean
Bean
program.
program actually. So that particular program has to be annotated by an annotation called
Configuration properties.
properties annotation. Okay, configuration properties annotation. Okay, everyone go to your Eclipse. So I might be going to your package com.pack.springboot4 right click create a new class. Com.pack.springboot4 right click and create a new class. So give the class name as employee properties, employee props, props, employee props. Finish. Okay, so first I have to indicate this is one of a Bean program with the help of what annotation?
Configuration.
Configuration. Give it as configuration. Because I want to indicate it is one of a Bean program, so I want to indicate with the help of an annotation called configuration annotation. Okay, as I already told before, my Spring Boot by default it will read all the configuration from which file?
Application.properties.
But right now we created 2 files called custom.properties and custom
Properties.
Okay, it's in a different name and a different location actually. So how my Spring Boot will be reading the different properties now with the help of an annotation called property source annotation. Property source inside the bracket property source inside the bracket double quotes. Okay, first thing, my first property custom.properties is present in which location?
Application.
No, custom.properties where it is present.
SRC main.
SRC main resources actually. So since it is present in your SRC main resources, so I am going to give it as in double quotes. I am going to give it as class path colon custom.properties. Class path colon custom.properties. So the class path now it was indicating which location it was indicating.
SRC means
SRC main resources it is indicating. Class path colon custom dot properties.
So CMP capital.
No, correct only. Class path colon custom dot properties. So as I already told before, Spring Boot by okay, I'll explain. Okay, the first file is done. Okay, what is your second file is?
Custom
one
Custom
dot
one dot property. So my custom one dot properties, where it is present? It is present in a
C
colon.
C colon. It is present actually. So can I give class path?
No,
No.
sir.
No,
I can't give it. Okay, so now type the next one. Property source. Property source. Property source inside your bracket like double quotes. Here it is present in the file location. That is in the operating system. It is present actually. So we are going to give it as file colon double slash file colon double slash.
Sir, everything will be in lowercase, sir.
Yeah, it's lowercase only. This slash file colon double slash. See the screen and type it properly. Okay. Now everyone go to the properties folder. Everyone go to the properties folder. Everyone go to your properties folder. Everyone go to your C colon properties folder. Everyone go. So in the top left, click it. In the top left, click it. This dot copy that C colon slash properties. Copy that path. In the top left, the URL, click it. You will be getting the path. Copy that path. Now come and paste over here. Copy the path and come and paste after your file. So is it coming like this? Can you see the screen? Is it coming like this?
Yes, sir.
Now after properties, once again give double slash. Once again give double slash. So what is your name of your properties?
Custom one dot
Custom one dot properties. So give custom one dot properties. So in the first case, we created your property file in the resources folder. So I'm going to give class path. I'm going to give it. And in the second case, I have created the properties file in the properties folder in the operating system I created. So I'm going to give it as file colon double slash C colon double slash property. Double slash will be taken as a single slash. It will be taken, but the representation it should be like this one only. So as I already told before, Spring Boot by default it will be reading the configuration from application.properties file. It will be reading. In case if I'm going to create my own properties file now, then we have to use what annotation we have to use it? Property source annotation. Okay, we have to use an annotation called property source annotation. So right now we created two properties files. So I created an annotation called annotation I created, that is
Property source.
property source. Now what you're going to do now, copy the two lines. Copy the two lines and comment it. Copy the two lines and comment it. Copy those two lines and comment it. Okay, so instead of defining separately, with the help of an annotation called
Value.
property source. If I have only one properties now, yes, I can able to define with the help of property source itself. I can able to define. But here we have multiple properties files are there. So instead of defining them separately, I can able to go for a next annotation. Type it. Property sources. Property sources. Property sources. Third one. Property sources. Inside your create a parenthesis, and inside your parenthesis create a curly brace, flower bracket. No double quotes. Just create a flower bracket and give enter. No double quotes. So you will be having, you can able to see like this, property source, parenthesis, curly brace, and give one enter. Next line you can see curly brace, close parenthesis. Now paste it. The thing you copied. I told to copy the previous one, property source, comma, then property source, comma, and next you have to copy paste the property source. Give enter. So that it should be like this. See the screen and type it properly. So you should be separating with comma. You should separate with comma. So as I told before, by default, your Spring Boot will read all the configuration from application.properties file. In case if you're creating your own properties file now, then I can able to access those properties file with the help of an annotation called
Property source.
property source. If I have multiple properties file now, then I can able to use an annotation called
Property
sources. Okay, property sources. Clear until this, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now inside this properties file, we have defined certain properties. What are the properties we have defined?
Custom properties.
No, inside the properties file, what are the properties I have defined?
Name,
Employee.
salary,
Employee.name, employee.age, employee.salary, employee.email, employee.address. I have defined all those properties. If you see this properties now, all this 5 properties it started with the prefix called
employee.
Yeah. So remember, since all this 5 property contain a prefix called
Employee.
that's the reason we have combined both the properties file in a single class called as
Employee props.
employee props actually. Okay. In case your custom.properties file contain a different properties, different prefix, and your custom one.properties contains a different prefix now, then we have to create 2 different
Properties.
classes. Okay. And that class has to be annotated by what annotation?
Configuration.
Configuration annotation. And next, how you are going to access the properties file with the help of what annotation?
Property source.
Annotation. Here, why I combined both the properties file now? Because both the properties file contain the same prefix. Okay. So that's the reason I combined both the properties file in a single program away. I combined actually. Okay. But in case if your custom.properties have a different prefix, custom one.properties have a different prefix now, then you have to create a different
Classes.
But the procedure is same thing. Okay. The procedure you have to do the same thing, but you have to create a different
Classes.
Okay. And the next annotation. The next annotation we are going to discuss is, as I already told before, how I can able to access the information from the properties file to your program with the help of an annotation called
Value.
value annotation. But if I use my value annotation, I have to configure each and every time I have to configure it actually. Instead of using like that, if I want to map the resources of the properties file to a separate bean program now, then you have to go for an annotation called
Configuration properties.
So now define an annotation called configuration properties, configuration properties, and inside the bracket your prefix is equal to, so all the 5 property have what prefix? Employee. The prefix is equal to double quotes employee. Prefix is equal to double quotes employee. Okay. So now, in your Beam program, in your employee props class, we have to define all the properties. We have to define it. So what are the different properties we have?
Name, age, salary,
Very easy, right?
address.
Address.
Email
But
address.
I'm not going to take the name property because I'm going to access the name property with the help of your other rate
Value.
value. Okay,
Value.
because I just want to show that's the reason. So define the remaining property: private integer age, private double salary, private integer age, private double salary, private integer age, private double salary, private string email, private string address, private string email, private string address, private string email and private string address, private string email and private string address, and create its getters and setters method. Just create its getters and setters method. Just create its getters and setters method. So you cleared out how to map your the resources that are present inside the properties file to a separate Beam program.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So now everyone go to your right click your com.pack.springboot 4, create a new class. Right click your com.pack.springboot 4 and create a new class. Right click your com.pack.springboot 4 and create a new class. And give the class name as index controller. Give the class name as index controller. Finish. Index controller, finish. So how will you indicate it as a controller?
By using controller.
And now here we are not using JSP, no. So what annotation? Other rate?
Rest controller.
Rest controller. Other rate rest controller. Now define one method: public string get employee, public string get employee, public string get employee, public string get employee. Okay. And before this method, we have to give what annotation we have to give before this method?
Request
Get mapping.
get mapping.
All right, get mapping. So give other rate get mapping, and inside your bracket value is equal to slash prop. Okay. So if I try to give a request called as your slash prop now, it is going to invoke a method called as what method?
Get employee
Get
method.
employee method. And inside this get employee method, I want to return all the employee information I want to return it. Okay, which is present inside your custom.properties as well as your custom1.properties file you have defined. And instead of accessing one property with the help of your value annotation, I have mapped all this property in a separate Beam program called as
Employee props.
employee props. But in that employee property, we have defined only 4 properties. One property is missing. And as I already told before, now we are going to access the value of that one property with the help of what annotation?
At the rate
Value
value addition.
annotation.
Before get mapping, type it. Other rate value. Before other rate value, and inside your bracket, double quotes. How you'll be accessing the property? Yesterday class we have discussed now how we have to access the property.
Dollar. Curly brace.
And what is the property name is? What is the property name is?
Employee.name.
Employee.name. Okay, employee.name. So define double quotes dollar curly brace employee.name. Dollar curly brace employee.name. Dollar curly brace employee.name. And that is assigned to a property called as? So just define something. Private string name. Okay. So the employee.name alone, it will be assigned to a property called as what property? I think name property. I doubt whether it will work or not. Okay, let me check. Okay, next one. And the remaining property and all are mapped to which program?
Employee props.
Employee props. So can you guys say how I can able to inject that employee prop into this particular program? We have to use what annotation?
At the rate autowired.
Other rate autowired. So type next. Other rate autowired, because I don't want to create any object and all. I want to automatically inject it. So we have to use what annotation? Other rate autowired. Other rate autowired. Not there. Outside. Other rate autowired. So define employee props emp. No, not there. After other rate value annotation. Not there. No. The other rate value private string name is separate. After that.
Okay, sorry.
Other rate autowired. Employee props emp. So now that particular reference for that particular beam will be automatically injected over here. Okay, it will be automatically injected over here. There is no need to create any object and all. There is no need to create it. Automatically, the reference for the employee props will be injected to an object called as what?
EMP.
EMP. Okay, it will be injected to an object called as what? EMP. Now coming to this method, get employee method. Now instead of return null, give it as return name, because we are getting the value for the name with the help of other rate value annotation. Return name plus double quotes plus. So the other property and all are injected to what object it was injected?
EMP.
Now emp dot get age plus emp dot get salary plus emp dot get address plus emp dot get email. So print everything. Emp dot get age plus emp dot get salary plus emp dot get and address plus emp dot get email. Print everything. Now just give a space over there plus double quotes. Otherwise it will print continuously. Finished, everyone?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So now everyone terminate your application and start it once again. Terminate your application and start it once again. Terminate your application and start it once again. So check in which port number let it started. 2000. 2000.
5.
First we have referred which profile.
Dev
Dev profile. Since we are referring dev profile, it was accessing the 2005. Now run it and check localhost colon 2005/prop. Localhost colon 2005/prop. Localhost colon 2005/prop. Is it printing, guys?
Yes, sir. Printing.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is it working, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, it's not working. That's good. Change your screen. Have you run in the browser? Showing error. Go to console. Maximize your console. Go to your properties file. Custom.properties file.
Registering.
Go to your custom.properties file. Hello.
Semicolon.
Script like this, sir. Are you seeing and typing the screen?
Yes, sir.
Remove the double quotes for Raj. Now run. Why salary is not coming? Check it. Custom.properties file. Go to your custom.properties.
Point zero.
Ploy, spelling wrong. Ploy.
Yes, sir.
So clear, guys, about the Spring Boot concept?
Yes, sir.
I don't need to share. I'm sharing my screen.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So the next topic we are going to discuss in the case of your Spring Boot is we called it again a very important topic, which is called as your Spring Data JPA. Can you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Spring Data
Yes, sir.
JPA. Okay, the next topic we are going to discuss is we call it a Spring Data JPA concept actually. So in the case of your Spring Boot, okay, in the case of your Spring Boot, if I want to persist any data into the database, so sorry, already we have studied. If I want to persist any data into the database, now what concept we have studied actually?
Hibernate.
Hibernate concept actually. But if I try to do the Hibernate program now, what are the steps we have to follow? First, what do you have to configure?
Configuration file.
CFP.xml file. Next, we have to create what class we have to create it.
Entity class.
Then we have to create a main class, and in the main class, compulsory you have to define 4 steps. You have to define it. What are the 4 steps?
Configuration, session factory, session.
So we have to write so many code in the case of your Hibernate concept actually. Again, in order to reduce the work for the developer, we have used a concept called as Spring
Data JPA.
Why we have to use the Spring Data JPA now? It is used for persisting the data. Okay, so if I want to persist any data into the databases, in that case, you will be going for a concept called your Spring Data JPA concept. So if you see the hierarchy, as usual, what I'll be having now, I'll be having my Java application. Okay, so you can able to see a Java application. You can able to see, and this Java application has to be communicated with my database. Okay, it has to be communicated with my database actually. So how it will be communicated now? In between, I'm going to use a concept called as your Hibernate concept. I'm going to use it. So here I'll be using my and ORM. Here I'll be using my JPA providers actually. Okay, here I'll be using my JPA providers. So here I'll be using my JPA providers actually. And what is the JPA providers? Now it is nothing but the vendors that provide implementation for JPA specification. JPA specification. So in order to do your JPA specification, I need some vendors I needed actually. So that and all is we called it here and JPA providers. So we have a vendors like Hibernate, we have iBattles, like that there are different types of vendors are available. Using these vendors, I'll be using what concept I'll be using?
JPA concept.
JPA concept actually. So with the help of this only, I'll be communicating with my Java application with your database actually. So but now we are going to use my Spring Data JPA concept. So what is the Spring Data JPA concept now? It is going to add on the top, or you can able to say it adds as an extra layer on the top of my JPA provider. In order to reduce the work of the developer, it will be adding on the top of my JPA provider. So here also we are going to use only the same concept we have studied in the case of your and the JPA, Java Persistent API. The same thing only here we are also going to use it actually. But in order to make our work easier, it is going to always provide on the top of my and the JPA provider. It adds as a layer on the top of my JPA provider in order to make our work
Easier.
Easier actually. Okay, in order to make our work easier. So it is mainly used for persisting the data actually, persisting the data. So it is a library. Okay, it is a library. It is a library that acts as an extra layer, extra layer of abstraction on top of JPA providers. So what is a JPA provider? So JPA provider is nothing but the vendors. Okay, they are vendors. They are called as your vendors. Vendors that provide implementation of JPA specification. Provide implementation of JPA specification. Like, so we have different vendors are available. Hibernate is there, Ibatis is there, JDO is there, Toplink is there. Like that, we have different types of JPA vendors are available, and with the help of the JPA vendors, we can able to provide the implementation of my
JPA.
What is the JPA specification now? The JPA specification is nothing but mapping of your plain old Java object to the
Database entity. Table.
Provide mapping of POJO. So here we won't call it as a POJO, we call it as what class?
Entity class.
Okay. In Hibernate, I'm asking entity class to columns of your database table. Column of database table. So how you indicate it as entity class?
At the rate entity.
Each entity class has to be mapped with a table with the help of an annotation called
Table.
Each entity class should contain one primary key, and the primary key is denoted with the help of an annotation called
ID.
Okay. So in order to use this JPA specification, I need some implementation. I need some vendor is needed actually, or I need some framework is needed. With the help of that framework, I can able to map your entity classes to the columns of the database with the help of your JPA console. So for that purpose only, we are using my
JPA
provider. JPA provider is nothing but the vendor that provide the implementation of your JPA specification. So under we have Hibernate, Ibatis, JDO, Toplink, and all. So with the help of these vendors, I can able to write your JPA implementation in this one, so that I can able to communicate with my
Database.
So normally we have done this one only. Previously we have done this one only. So we have used your Hibernate, and inside your Hibernate we have used your JPA specification. We have used it in order to communicate with your databases actually. But in order to make our work easier, we are going to study a concept called as Spring Data JPA. It is a library that adds as an extra layer on the top of your
JPA providers.
We have your Java application, we have your database. So initially, if I want to communicate with my Java application to a database now, I have to use my JPA specification. I need to use it in order to communicate with your database. And how I can able to use this JPA? Specification with the help of JPA?
Providers.
So we have Hibernate is there, Ibatis is there. So in the last, maybe in the previous session, we have used Hibernate. With the help of Hibernate, or inside the Hibernate, we have used your JPA specification in order to communicate with your
Database.
make our work easier. I'm going to add one extra layer on the top of my JPA provider, which is called as your Spring Data.
JPA.
Called as Spring Data JPA. And this Spring Data JPA, it is provided with 3 layers. Okay, it is provided with 3 layers. The first layer is we call it a Spring Data JPA. Okay, it is we call it a Spring Data JPA. And with the help of this layer, we can able to create your JPA repositories. We can able to create your JPA repository. We can able to create it. And this and Spring Data JPA is interdivided into 2 types. The first one is we call it a JPA repository. And here we have to provide 2 things. We have to provide one is we call the entity class name, and we have to provide the data type of your primary key. We have to provide 2 things inside this particular interface. We have to provide it. One is we call the entity class name, and another one is we call the data type of your primary key actually. And this is we call the interface. Okay, it is your interface actually. And while we are using this particular interface now, if I want to use any CRED operation, what is CRED operation now?
Create.
If I want to perform CRED operation as well as batch operation. So if I want to perform any CRED operation as well as your batch operation, in that case you can able to go for an interface called as what interface?
JPA repository.
JPA repository interface. You can go for an interface called as your JPA repository interface. And the second one it will be containing is we call it your JPA specification executor. JPA specification executor actually. And this will be containing only one thing. It will be providing. We have to provide. And what is the purpose of this particular interface is now? It is going to retrieve data based on some criteria. Okay. So in the case of Hibernate, we have studied a language called as your criteria query language. We have studied. No. With the help of that criteria, if I want to fetch the data now, in that case you can go for an interface called as your JPA specification
Executor.
And the second layer we are going to study is we call it Spring Data Commons layer actually, and this is divided into 3 interface. The first one is we call it a repository interface, and whenever you use the repository interface, you have to provide your entity class name as well as your primary key actually. And this is one of a marker interface. What is marker interface now?
No method inside.
It doesn't contain any methods. And the second one we can able to go is we call it a CRED repository. Okay, the second interface we can go is we call it a CRED repository. And what is a CRED repository? Again, it will be provided now. It will be provided with your entity class name as well as your data type of your primary key. And this CRED repository it is used to perform what operation? CRED operation. So if I want to perform any CRED operation, you can able to go for a method interface called as your CRED repository interface. You can go for interface called as your CRED repository interface. And the third interface is we call it your paging and sorting repository. And here also we have to provide your entity class name as well as your data type of your primary key, and it is used for sorting and paging purpose. Okay, if I want to do any sorting and paging purpose now, in that case I can able to go for a interface called as your paging and sorting
Repository.
And the third layer is we call it JPA provider layer. And what my JPA provider will act as, it acts like some. What is JPA provider now? It is a
Implementation.
vendor. Okay, it is a vendor that provides the implementation of your JPA specification. So for that purpose, you'll be going for your JPA provider actually. So it is provided with 3 layers called as your data JPA layer, data commons layer as well as your JPA provider. And in all these cases, it was provided an interface called as your JPA repository, CRED repository as well as your paging and sorting repository. And as I already told before, why we are going for this and Spring Data JPA, it is going to reduce the work of your developer actually. How we are going to reduce the work of your developer now? So in the case of your Spring Data JPA, so if I want to insert anything or update anything or delete anything or select anything now, we don't want to write any logic at all. We have to just call the method. The implementation and all will be automatically done with the help of these
JPA
interfaces. Okay, with the help of these interfaces. So we'll be using either JPA repository or CRED repository or
Paging and
Paging
sorting.
and sorting.
So we'll be using any one of the repository interface we'll be using actually. So we have to just declare the methods, we have to declare it. The implementation and all will be automatically taken care by my
JPA providers.
no, not provider. It will be automatically taken care by my repository interface. Will be automatically taken care by my repository interface. So in the case of your Hibernate and all, we have to write the code. We have to write it in order to insert the data, update the data, delete the data, as well as select the data and all. But in the case of your Spring Data JPA, we are not going to write any logic or definition. I'm not going to write it. We are just going to declare the methods. Okay. The internal implementation and all will be automatically taken care by the
Interfaces.
repository interface. Okay, it will be taken care by my repository interface. So we have 4 important repository interfaces are available. So we have your repository interface, and we have your CRED repository interface, and we have paging and sorting repository interface, and we have your JPA repository interface. If you see the hierarchy now, this CRED repository will extend your repository interface, paging and sorting will extend your CRED repository, JPA repository will extend your
Paging and sorting.
repository. So whenever you do any Spring Data JPA, which repository will be using?
For paging and sorting.
No. We won't use paging and sorting. Which one will be using? See the hierarchy and say it. Which is the effective one? JPA repository. Because if I use JPA repository now, this JPA repository extends your and paging and sorting extends your CRED repository, and the CRED repository extends your repository actually. So if I use my JPA repository now, it includes all the methods that are present inside your
All three.
all the three actually. Okay, all the three actually. So it is always good to go with which repository?
JPA repository.
So if I use my JPA repository, it extends paging extends CRED extends repository. So we can able to use all this. We can able to use all the method present in this 3 repository inside which repository?
JPA repository.
So if you use any Spring Data JPA concept, we can go for your which repository?
JPA
repository. When I already told before, JPA repository is used to perform CRED as well as
batch operation.
But I want to perform only CRED operation now. Even I can able to go for which repository?
CRED repository.
It's your wish. It is your wish. Either you can go for CRED repository or you can go for your wish. Either any one of the repository repository interface you can able to and use it. And whenever you're defining the repository interface, you have to provide 2 important things. You have to provide it. One is we call it the entity class name, and another one is we call it be a dependency actually. So whenever you define this thing, we don't want to write any logic. We have to just declare the no. We have to just declare what?
You have to call the method.
Method. We have to declare the method. The logic and all will be internally taken care by my
Repository
repository itself. Okay, it will be internally taken care by my repository itself. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, Viber, share your screen, Viber. So, everyone go to your Spring initializer. Everyone go to your Spring initializer. Everyone go to your Spring initializer. So, give the group as com.pack and the artifact is Spring Boot 6, Spring Boot 5, sorry, Spring Boot 5, jar packaging. Okay, that and all is okay. So in the dependency till now, what are the 2 dependencies we have added?
Web tools and web.
Web and Dev tools dependency actually. But right now we are not going. Okay, when you have to go for a web dependency, how you indicate web application is okay. How you indicate? So till now we have used so many things. Now what and all we have used it so that we have used web dependency.
Spring Web.
Manoma, what I'm asking now, when we have to go for your web dependency in order to develop web application, what is web application? Now we have to give the what the client will give. And which one will handle the response?
Controller will handle.
Controller. Okay, so if I want to create any controller-based program, Nata, we have to go for which dependency? Web dependency. Okay. Whenever you create any controller, so the controller is used to handle the request and give the response. In that case, only you have to go for a web dependency. So right now, I'm not going to go for a web dependency because right now we are just my objective. I want to store only inside the database. Okay. So we have to go for a dependency called Spring Data JPA. So type it Spring Data JPA. So you can able to see the first dependency Spring Data JPA. Wait, Spring Data JPA. So we have to. So if I'm going and so always remember, if I'm going to develop any web application based upon the controller and all, now you have to provide what dependency you have to provide it. And if I'm going to develop any database related concept now, what dependency you have to provide it. Spring Data JPA. Now with the help of the Spring Data JPA, I'm going to store the information into the
database.
What database?
H2.
H2 is actually, but what database we have studied? I'm asking the database.
MySQL.
database. Yes, we have studied a database called as your MySQL database. Or in case if I want to use my H2 database also, you can able to use it because it comes by default in your Spring Boot actually. But now we are going to use which database?
MySQL database.
Why I'm not using my H2 database now? And the problem with the H2 database now you are running and consider today you are running all the data and you are going to store all the data into the H2 databases. Now you are logged off from your system. And tomorrow if you try to open my H2 database, nothing will be there actually because it is called the in-memory databases. So once you log off now, then all the information will be erased actually or lost actually. It is just for testing purpose. Okay, if I want to test something and once your testing is completed, if I want to erase everything now, then I can go for which database?
H2 database.
But now I don't want to do like this. Okay, I want to store somewhere and permanently I want to store it actually. So we are going to use which database?
MySQL database.
We are going to use your MySQL database. And in order to connect with your MySQL database and make our work easier, I'm going to provide what dependency?
Spring Data JPA.
Second, click your add dependency button. Once again, click your add dependency button and type MySQL. And type MySQL, you can able to see the driver for MySQL. MySQL driver. So for the database processing, how many dependencies we have to add it?
Two dependencies.
One is we call to be a Spring Data JPA, and another one is we call to be a
MySQL driver.
In case you are going for a once again click add dependency. Type H2. Don't select it, just type H2. So in case if I'm going for a H2 database now, then we have to select your H2 database driver. We have to select it. But in our cases, we are going to use which database?
MySQL.
MySQL database. So we have selected only which driver?
MySQL.
Yeah. So whenever you're going to do any database processing, we have to add two dependencies. We have to add it. One is we call it Spring Data JPA, and another one is we call it
MySQL
driver. So what are the steps you have to do now?
Generate,
After generating,
extract,
extract, then import, then
update,
before update, what
MPN,
before update,
MPN clean.
install. Yes. Do all those steps: generate your project, extract your project, import your project, NVN clean install, and update your project. No problem. Build failure only will be coming. No problem.
Oh, sir.
Just update your project alone.
Yes, sir. Done.
So everyone build fail only. No problem. Just update your project.
Okay, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, finished guys, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so everyone open your pom.xml file. Everyone open your pom.xml file. So if I want to do any database related operation, we have to provide two dependencies we have to provide it. So come down, what is the first dependency we have provided?
Spring data JP.
Spring data JP actually. And what is the second dependency we have provided?
MySQL connector Java.
MySQL driver, because right now we are going to use my MySQL database, we are going to use it. Okay. So now dependency is done actually. We have to provide only two dependencies we have to provide it. Okay. Next one. In the case of your Hibernate, where you will be providing all your database information related
Then
CFD.xml file. But in the case of your Spring Boot, where you have to provide all your database related information in your application.properties file actually. So everyone go to your application.properties file. Everyone go to your application.properties file. Everyone go to your application.properties file. Because your Spring Boot will by default will read all the configuration from which file? Application.properties file. So we are going to configure everything inside your application.properties file actually. So go to the chat window. I have pasted the code. Just copy and paste it. Go to the chat window. I pasted the code. Just copy and paste it. Let me explain. Have you pasted, guys?
Yes, sir.
So what is the first property we are given? Spring.jpa.hibernate.ddl-auto is equal to update. Can you guys say what is the purpose of this first property ddl-auto equal to update?
It will automatically
Create what?
Table.
Yes, it will automatically create the tables actually. Okay. And if I give update now, what happens? If the table is already present now, what it will do?
It will only update the
Update. Okay, it will update. And if it is not present now, what it will do? Create. The second property, the URL property, database URL. So jdbc:/localhost:3306/jpa. What is the JPA represents?
database name.
Database name. Okay, database name. And the next one, we have provided the username of your database, and the next one, we have provided your password of your database. And in case you have a different password for your database now, please change it. I hope a few guys have created a different password for the database. If you have a different password for the database now, please change it for MySQL database. Done?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what is the database name we have created here? JPA. So now we have to create this database JPA inside what? MySQL. So everyone go to your MySQL. Everyone go to your MySQL, and we have to create a database called what? JPA. Create database JPA. Create database JPA. Everyone go to your MySQL and create a database called as JPA. Go to your MySQL and create a database called as JPA. Okay. Finish that till this, everyone, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So whenever you're going to do any database operation, first we have to provide the dependency we have to provide. What are the two dependencies we have to provide?
MySQL connector.
Next one is
Starter.
Spring data JPA we have to provide it. And second step, we have to configure all the database information inside which file?
Application.properties file.
Application.properties file. Okay, we have to configure all your database information in your application.properties file. The third step is that we have to create what class?
Entity class.
Entity class. Yes, we have to create your entity class. So right click your SRC, open your SRC main Java. You can see a package called as com.pack.springboot file. Right click it and create a new class called employee. Create a new class called employee. Create a new class called employee.
With the same package or different?
Same package, no problem. You can create it. And but as I already told before, if you're creating a different package now, it should be always a
Sub-package.
sub package actually. Okay. And in case if you create it outside now, what annotation we have to use it?
Component scan.
Yeah, @component scan. So now everyone created the same package, create a class called as employee. Finished up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So how you indicate it is entity class?
Entity.
Entity. And each entity class should map with the
Table.
table. Table name is equal to what we can give EMP 5000 because already we have given 2004. No, yeah, you can give EMP 1000 itself because right now we are using different database. EMP 1000. Table name is equal to EMP 1000. Okay. So now define the property private integer ID, private integer ID, private integer ID, private string name, private string gender, private string gender. And instead of giving G small letter. So here instead of giving string to gender, even I can able to give the gender to be what?
Yeah.
That's your wish. Okay, I'm just taking as gender only. Next one, private string email, string email, private double salary, and private string DEPT. So we have defined 6 properties. We have defined integer ID, string name, string gender, string email, string double salary, as well as your string DEPT actually. And as we have already discussed, whenever you create any entity class, each entity class should contain one
Primary key.
primary key. How will you define the primary key with the help of what annotation? Yeah. And the primary key value should be auto-generator. In order to do the value to be auto-generator, now we have to use what annotation? @
Generated value.
generated value. Strategy is equal to generation type dot auto. Strategy is equal to generation type dot auto. So first we have provided @ entity. Next we have mapped this entity class with the table @table, and we have defined certain property called ID, name, gender, email, salary, and department. And each entity class should contain one primary key, so it is denoted with the help of your @ID. And I want to make the value to be auto-generator, so I have used an annotation called @generated value annotation. And in case in my table, if I need a different name for the column, now we have to provide what annotation?
At the rate of
Column. You need it, you can use it. Here we leave it like that itself. Finished everyone till this?
Yes.
So next what we have to create?
Getters and
Getters and setters, parameterized constructor and default constructor. Everyone create your getters and setters method, parameterized constructor, default constructor, and override your toString method. Getters and setters method, parameterized constructor, default constructor, and override your toString method. Finished now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So as I already told before, in the case of a Hibernate where you have given all your database information,
Configuration file.
configuration file. But in the case of your Spring Data JPL where you have to give your database information,
Application.properties file.
next we created your entity class. So in the case of Hibernate, what is the third step you will be creating?
Mapping.
In the Hibernate, what is the third step you will be creating?
Mapping, sir.
We are not creating mapping because we are not using HBM file at all. We are using only annotation based one. We are using. What is the third step is using?
Main class.
Class.
Main class. And in the main class, we have to define your configuration, session factory, session transaction, everything you have to do it actually. But instead of doing like this, in the case of your Spring Data JPA, in order to make our work easier, we are using the Spring Data JPA. And which one is going to make our work easier?
Repository interface.
Spring Data JPA. Which one is going to make our work easier?
Repository interface.
Interface actually. Okay. And we have 4 repository interfaces. Are there repository then? Red repository then?
Root repository.
JPA repository.
JPA repository. So whenever you are going to perform any CRUD operation, we'll be going for which repository?
JPA repository or
CRUD operation of which repository? I must listen to my question properly. Only CRUD operation means which repository? So CRUD operation as well as batch operation only will go for which repository? Okay. Now the fourth step is that we have to create your repository interface. We have to create it. Okay, we have to create your repository interface. So right click your package, new interface. Right click your package, new interface. Right click your package, com.pack.springboot file, new interface, and give your interface name as employee repository, employee repository, employee repository, employee repository, and click finish. So everyone created employee repository? Okay. Now it is just an interface actually. It is not going to act like a repository. It is just an interface actually. But I want to make this interface to act like one of a repository. I want to act like. So for that purpose, we have to extend any one of the repository. We are going to extend. And since we are performing a CRUD operation, we are going to extend which repository? And whenever you're using CRUD.jpa or paging and all, what are the two things you have to give in your angle bracket?
Entity class.
Entity class name and type of
Right. Extend CRUD repository, and inside your angle bracket, what is your entity class name is?
Employee.
employee.
Employee, comma, what is the data type of your primary key is?
Integer.
Integer. So give employee, comma, integer. CRUD repository, and inside your angle bracket, give your employee, comma, integer. Employee, comma, integer. So now this particular interface is going to act like which repository?
CRUD repository.
CRUD repository. So I can able to perform a CRUD operation. I can able to perform. And what is one advantage of using a Spring Data JPA? We don't want to write any logic. Everything is implementation. Everything it will be taken care by my
Repository.
interface. Okay, everything it will be taken care by my repository interface. So if I want to perform any database operation, 4 steps you have to do it actually. First step, you have to provide the dependency, 2 dependency in form.xml, Spring Data JPA dependency, and MySQL connector dependency. Second step, you have to configure your DB information inside which file. Third step, you have to create your
Entity class.
and fourth step, you have to create your
Repository
repository interface. Okay, repository interface, and that repository interface has to extend either
CRUD repository or
JPA repository or a JPA repository. But whatever you're extending inside your angle bracket, what are the things you have to give it?
entity class name, data type of
This one, we don't want to write any logic. Automatically, repository itself will be writing all the implementation for us. So it is going to reduce the work of the
developer.
Okay, it is going to reduce the work of the developers. Clear, guys? These 4 steps. Okay. So how I can able to communicate with your databases? 1 minute. Let me share my screen. 1 minute. So in order to communicate with your databases, okay. So in order to communicate with your databases, we have different ways are there actually. Okay. So different ways to communicate with the database. Different ways to communicate with database actually. Today I hope we'll be discussing only the first one. We'll be discussing. If time permit, we'll go for the next one. The first one, what we are going to define now using predefined methods. Predefined method. Because this repository, CRUD repository, paging and sorting repository, JPA repository, all this 4 are what?
Interfaces.
Interface actually. And what the interface will be containing?
Methods.
Okay. So and as I've already discussed, repositories, what interface?
Marker interface.
Marker interface actually. And what is marker interface now?
Interface.
No methods actually. So we have only methods in the CRUD repository, paging and sorting repository as well as in order to communicate with your database. So that only we are going to discuss using predefined methods present in repository. Okay, it is going to be present inside your repository interface. It is going to be present. The first method we are going to discuss is that if I want to store a single object into a database now, then you'll be going for a method called as
Save.
okay. If I want to store a single object into a database now, you'll be going for a method called as your save method actually. And if I want to store a group of objects into the database now, then you'll be going for a method called as your method. Okay, you'll be going for a method called as your save all method. Store multiple objects. Okay, if I want to store multiple objects into the database now, you can go for a method called as your save all method. And the third method is that if I want to find a single object now, then I can able to go for a method called find optional, find one method, and we have to pass your ID as an argument, or even I can able to go for a method called optional, find by ID method. So either you can able to go for the optional find one method or optional find by ID method to return how many objects?
Single object.
If I want to return multiple objects, then you'll be having a method called find all method. So this find all method will return how many objects?
Multiple.
Okay, it is going to return your multiple object. And the next thing is the other thing. And if I want to delete a single object now, we are going for a method called object obj. The delete method object obj, or even I can able to use a method called as void delete by ID method. Void delete by ID, and we are going to pass your ID. So it is going to delete a single object. Deleting a single object. If I want to delete all the object now, then we have a method called void delete all method, where it is going to delete Object. Okay, it is going to delete all object. It will be deleting actually. And in order to check whether that particular object exists or not, we are going for a method called as a boolean. Boolean exist method. Okay, exist method actually. And for updation, we don't have any separate method. We don't have actually. But if I want to do updation again, we'll be going for which method?
Same method.
Same method actually. So if primary key is already present now, what it will do?
Update.
Present now, what it will do?
Insert.
No, I'm asking if my primary key already present now, it will update actually. Okay. And in case if my primary key not present now, what it will do?
Insert. Insert.
Insert. Okay. So that is the purpose of your and the object same method actually. Okay. If primary key already present, it will update. If primary key not present enough, then what it will do? It will do the insert.
Insert operation.
Okay. So these are the different ways to these are the predefined methods that are present inside your and Spring Data JPA. With the help of these predefined methods, we can able to and do the operation that we can able to communicate with your
Database.
Share your screen, Vaibhav.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so now we have done everything actually. So now I want to communicate with your database actually, and we have already know like which program will be executed first.
Main method.
Open your main class. Everyone open your main class. The main method only will be executed first. But before your main method executes, I want to communicate with the database, and then I want to execute your main method. So before your main method execute, if I want to do some logic now, what I have to go for?
Command line runner.
A command line runner. So implement your command line runner. Implement your command line runner. Implement your command line runner. Implement your command line runner and override your run method. Override your run method. Okay, because as we have already studied, your main class only will be executed first actually. But before my main class executes, what I want to do now, I want to communicate with my database and I want to do all the logic I want to do it before my main method invokes. So for that purpose, I have implemented which interface?
Command line runner interface.
We are adding an unimplemented method called
Run method.
Now inside your run method, call a method called create employee. Call a method called create employee. Create employee. So before your main method invokes, it is going to call your run method, and inside your run method, first we are calling which method?
Create employee.
So keep your cursor pointer on the create employee. It will ask to create it. Keep your cursor pointer on the create employee. So what it was asking? It was asking to create method create employee. Click that. Is it creating a method called private void create employee method?
Yes, sir.
So before your main method invokes, it will go to the run method, and inside the run method, it is going to call which method?
Create employee
Create
method.
employee method. It is going to call your create employee method, and inside this create employee method, what we are going to do? We are going to
Communicate with the database.
no, we are not going to communicate with your database. We are going to create an employee, and we are going to store that employee into the database. Okay, so type it. Employee E1 is equal to new employee. Employee E1 is equal to new employee. Employee E1 is equal to new employee. So we are going to use my parameterized constructor. So sorry, wait. Okay, do one thing. Go to your entity class. Go to your entity class. Go to your entity class. Remove that other generated value because let me give the values. Comment your other generated value because I don't want to take the value to be value of primary key to be auto generated. I want to give the value. So remove that other generated value annotation. Remove that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now come to your main program. Come to your main program. So type employee E1 is equal to new employee. 100 comma. What is the second argument will be? Name. Give some name. Ram something give it. 100 comma. Give some name. And what is the third argument? Gender, I think.
Yes, sir.
Gender. Give to male and give some email and give some salary and give some department as HR. Gender male. Email. Give some email. Give salary is 30,000.0 and give the department as HR. Salary is 30,000.0. Finished, guys?
भाई शांति रख लो भाई, क्यों बता रहे हो मेरे ऑफिस वालों को कि आइसक्रीम खा के आए हो?
Vaibhav, mute your call, Vaibhav.
बोल दिया यार उसने सामने वाले ने यार.
So finished, guys, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Now go to your main class. So now, as I already told before your main method invokes, it will call your run method, and inside your run method, we are calling a method called create employee. And inside the create employee, what we are going to do? We are going to create one employee object and creating. Now, how to store this single employee object into the database? We have to call which method?
Save.
Save method. But the save method and the save all method, find all method, find one method, and all it's coming from which one it was coming?
Predefined method.
Predefined method. Okay, it is predefined inside which one? Repository interface. Now we have already created one repository creator. Which repository created?
Employee
repository. So that extends your credit repository. From that only these methods and all are coming actually. But how my Spring Boot 5 application knows there is one interface called as employee repository is there? So how I can able to give the reference of the employee repository into this program? How I can able to inject the reference of my employee repository into this program? @autowired. So we have to use an annotation called as your @autowired employee repository emp. In the top left, might be before main method. Before your main method, so give it as @autowired employee repository emp. @autowired employee repository emp. @autowired employee repository emp. Because we have discussed some predefined method. The predefined method and all are coming from the credit repository only it was coming. So there we created a repository we created an employee repository that extends your Employee repository that extends what? Guys, answer. Your employee repository extends what? Thread repository actually. So this thread repository only was containing all those predefined methods it was containing. So how I'm going to give the reference to the employee repository into your main class with the help of what concept? Auto-wiring concept. Yeah, with the help of your auto-wiring concept. Now, inside the create employee method, so how I can able to insert one employee object? Which method? Huh? Save emp.save of e1. emp.save of e1. So now it is going to save a single employee object. It will be saving. So it is going to save a single employee object. It will be saving actually. So now everyone run the program and check your database. What table it will be created? EMP1000 table. So yeah, run your application and check your EMP1000 table whether the single data is inserted. Run your application and check whether the check the table EMP1000 and check whether the data is inserted.
So can you repeat the last step? So emp.save.
Save of e1. Save of e1. So run the application and select star from EMP1000 table and check whether the data is inserted. Single data is inserted.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Finished everyone? Is it working?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now comment to the two lines. Comment to the two lines. Comment to the two lines alone because it is going to save only a single object. It will be saving actually. Now, if I want to save multiple objects, now we have to go for which method?
Save all.
Save all method.
Save
Yes.
all.
Yeah. So go to the chat window. I pasted the code. Just copy and paste it. I'll explain it. And imported. Rahul, what happened?
Sir, I created employee repository class like class only, sir.
It is not class, Rahul. It is interface. Share your screen.
Okay.
Go to your employee repository program. Change that to be interface. Public interface employee repository extends. Public interface employee repository. Change class to interface. Imported.
Okay.
Now come to Spring Boot 5 application. Now run it. Right click run. Now go and check your database. Okay, now go and check your database. No. First use it. Select star from. Now go to the chat window. Copy it. Now comment to the two lines. Inside the create employee, comment to the two lines. And now paste it. Import it. No, inside curly brace, Rahul. Cut it and paste it inside curly brace. You have pasted outside the curly brace.
Here only, sir.
My line, give one enter and paste it. Hey, util.
Sir, for repo, from where should I import?
Instead of repo, give it as what?
EMP.
EMP. Go to the top. Go to your top import section. Expand it. Remove the 10th line. List also has to be imported from which package? Imported. Now in the last line, let's change it as emp.save all. EMP. So previously we have added a single object actually, but now I want to add how many objects? Multiple objects. So first what we created a list of employee we created, and now we created an employee object called E2 and we have added the E2 into my
List.
Next we have created an employee E3 and we have added your E3 into the list, and next we have created employee E4 and we have added your E4 into your list. Next we created employee E5 and we have added your E5 into your list. So right now list will contain how many employee object will be containing? Four employee object. Yes. Okay. Now I want to store all this 4 employee object into my database. I want to store it. So we have to call which method?
Save all method.
Save all of list. Okay, so it is going to store a group of object it will be storing. So for that purpose, you will be calling a method called your save all method. Now everyone run it and check your database whether it has inserted all these 4 rows. Run the application and check your database whether it has inserted all these 4 rows. So once again, select it and check whether it has inserted all these 4 rows. So now your table should contain how many rows it should contain?
5 rows.
5 rows. Yes, it should contain 5 rows. It should contain. Finished, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Now everyone go to your run method. Everyone go to your run method. Okay. Anyone share your screen? Go to your run method. Now comment your create employee method, because create employee has to be created only once, it has to be created. So comment your create employee method. Now type the next one, find employee. Type find employee. So keep your cursor pointer on that and create a method called find employee. So inside the run method, comment your create employee. So now call a method called find employee, and inside your so keep your cursor pointer on the find employee and create a method called find employee. Okay, so as I already told before, if I want to find a single employee now, we have to go for which method?
Find one.
Find one or
Find
find
one.
by
ID.
ID. And if I want to find all the employee now, we have to go for which method?
Find
all.
all.
Okay, find all method. Now go to the chat window, copy the code and paste inside this find employee method. Import your optional. Optional has to be imported from which package? Util. So what we have done actually, so before your main method, it will go to the run method, and inside the run method, we are going to call which method?
Find employee.
Find employee method. So now it will go to the find employee method. Now I'm going to find the employee. If I want to find a single employee, then we have to go for which method? Find by ID method. And pass ID is 101. Pass ID is 101. emp.find ID of 101. Find ID of 101 actually. So now I'm going to find a single employee based upon the ID called
101.
101. And I'm going to store into what object? Optional object I'm going to store it. Because if I don't have any ID 101 now, then there will be a chance of
3.
if I don't have an ID of 101 now, at the time of retrieving, there will be a chance of what?
Null pointer exception.
Exception actually. And in order to avoid that exception only, we have given the return type of find by ID is what?
Optional.
Optional actually. And how I'm going to get the data from the optional? We have to call a method called opt.get method. Now it is going to get the single employee based on the ID called 101, and it is going to store into an object called
E.
E object. Okay, and it's going to store into an object called E object. So now I'm going to print my E object. I'm going to print it. So and what it will be printing? It will be printing a single employee object based upon the ID called
101.
Again go to your chat window, copy the code and paste it after the system.out.println of E. Go to the chat window, copy and paste the code and paste after your system.out.println of E. Okay, have you pasted, guys?
Yes.
Okay, so previously we find a single object, but now I'm going to find a multiple object. So if I want to return multiple object, now then we have to go for a method called
Find all.
Find all.
and the find all method will return as an iterable. It will be returning. So what that all object will be containing? It will be containing all the
Employees.
employees that will be containing actually. So how I'll be retrieving one employee? How I'll be retrieving? So I'll be using a method called as
For each
for each. And what the for each method will take as an argument? We have studied now.
Lambda expression.
Lambda expression. Okay, we have written lambda expression, but for which one we have written a lambda expression? Your for each method will be taking what as an argument?
Consumer interface.
Yeah, consumer functional interface as an argument. For that particular consumer functional interface, we have written what?
Icon.
For each.
For consumer functional interface, what we'll be writing?
Lambda expression.
Lambda expression.
Expression. Okay, we have written a lambda expression. Now run it and check whether it is printing single object and printing multiple object. Is it printing a single employee and all the employees?
Yes.
Sir.
Okay. Now go to the console. Sorry, what is it? Go to your run method. Go to your run method. Guys, is it working now for everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So now comment your find employee method. Comment your find employee method. Comment your find employee method. Now type check employee and delete. Check employee and delete. A caps. Check employee and delete. Inside your bracket, pass 100. Pass 100. Now create the method called check employee and delete method. Create a method called check employee and delete method. So what you're passing as an argument to the check employee and delete method? No, ID. You're passing the ID actually. So now what I want to do, I want to check whether that particular ID is
Present.
present or not. And if it is present now, we have to do what?
Delete.
Delete it actually. Okay. So how you check whether that particular ID is present or not?
Find the ID.
That is find by ID is used to return the value actually. But now I want to check whether that particular file, that ID exists or not.
Exist method.
Exists by ID method actually. I made a mistake. It is exists by ID method. Now go to the chat window, copy the code and paste it. Have you pasted, guys?
Yes, sir.
So what you are doing first, your if condition, what you are doing, I'm checking if it exists by ID 100. Okay. If that particular ID 100 exists in a okay. The emp.exists by ID. If that ID exists now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to call emp.find by
ID.
ID. And I'm going to store into an optional value called employee optional. In case if that particular ID doesn't exist now, it is going to throw what?
Runtime exception.
Runtime exception actually. In case if it is present now, it is going to print that particular employee, and after that I'm going to delete that particular employee. Run it and check. So first it has to print the 100 employee information. It has to be printed, and after that go and check in the table that 100 employees should not be present. After that, after deleting, go and check in the table. There's a table that 100 employees should not be present.
Yes, sir.
Is it deleted, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Finished, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now go to your run method and comment your the check employee method. Now create a next method called update employee of 101. Update employee bracket la you're going update employee bracket la 101 and create a method called update employee. So now we are going to update the employee. Which employee we are going to update it? Employee we are going to update based on the ID called
101.
101. Okay, based on the ID called as your 101. So first I'll be checking whether that particular ID is exist or not, and after that only I'm going to do the updation. I'm going to do it actually. I'm going to do the updation. I'm going to do it actually. And do we have any separate method to do the updation?
No,
No,
sir.
same
Same
method.
method.
What method we have to use it?
Same method.
Okay, the same method we are going to do use it to the updation actually. So now go to the chat window, copy the code and paste it. What we are doing, guys?
First, employee exists.
ID is
First we are going to check it whether that particular file exists or not with the help of a method called as your boolean
Exist method.
exists by ID. So if that ID exists now, I'm going to do updating. So first I'm going to get that employee object with the help of your find by
ID.
ID method, and I'm going to store in my employee 2 object actually. Next I'm going to print that employee 2 object. So for that particular employee 2 object, I'm going to and updating the salary is how much?
55,000.
55,000. And finally, I'm going to save that employee object into the database. Now run it and check your database whether for 101 the salary is updated. Now run it and check into your databases for 101 the salary is updated.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Finished, guys?
Yes, sir.
So we have just discussed only the thread operation we have discussed. So we have some other operations are there. We'll discuss in the tomorrow session.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to give one hands-on program related to this database operation. So try to complete it and send it. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Tuesday. When was Ramzan actually? Third or second?
Third, sir.
Third, is
Third, sir.
Ramzan.
Third.
Today is 5th.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
So today you have to. Yesterday there is no hands-on. So today I'm going to send the hands-on. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So it is 26th day. Today is the 26th day.
24th.